Hello everyone, welcome to the session. So let's first of all start with the agenda to discuss what we are going to see today. So if you remember, then past few topics, we are ensuring that we are very much clear about those essential concepts of JavaScript that we must know if you want to uh, work on Salesforce Lightning and if you're looking for some strong hold on that. In this process you understood lots of things till debugging, and now we are going to talk about some very essential things which are related to the best practices that you need to follow in Salesforce uh, Lightning. And also we are going to see that how exactly we are going to implement this functionality. Always remember, this knowledge you can implement in the client side controller, and you are also going to implement this all the things in the um, helper. Okay, so these are various scenarios where actually you are going to perform this kind of activity. So let's proceed now for the next few important topics in the same series, and let me tell you what actually is going to be the agenda of this session. So in the same file where I added various previous notes, there I'm adding these notes also, and here will be its agenda for today's session. Uh, so first of all, let's talk about some kind of important things, that is the best practices, which is the common problem which many people do who jump into the Salesforce uh, Lightning projects and having no much idea about the usage of JavaScript. In JavaScript, we need to always ensure that to ensure your code is working and following the best policies, and also accessibility criteria and all the stuffs. Try to ensure that you avoid the global variables as much as can. Here, like the experts or the writers of the JavaScript.
Commerce Cloud connects you with your customers in a whole new way by letting you create.
Okay, that video got started. Fine. So the experts of JavaScript authors always tell one important thing, that in JavaScript, try to ensure that as much as possible avoid the global variables, because this this global variables when you use then can be overwritten by the other scripts or other code, and you may not able to track it properly, and this way it makes some kind of issue or problem in the long term or complex code. So the best solution is write the code in the JavaScript local format, in closures and all. For example, let's say something like this. So let me mention here, by the way, the topic number one, and here in that avoid using global variables. Okay, so the reason behind this is we can get we get better control using local variable, and it's also called as using declare variables in closures. So the closure means nothing but the local format only. So for example, whenever we declare any kind of functionality in this process, we need to declare in a closure, like let me just show you one example. So for example, let's say you're writing a function and for that function, let's say you need uh, let's say it's a function name is called as function 1, for example, or function a, and for that, let's say you are declaring a variable a, and let's say you're declaring for example variable b, something like this, and you're just sending or returning, let's say a plus b, something like this, for example this code. Look at this code. So this is called as the code using closures. Now here all the variable declarations are we are making, they are all global. So in above code, variables are declared in local format. Okay, so try to go for this instead of using globally. This is point number A. Let's go for point number B. Now second point which says is again a very important point in terms of comparison or comparative process. The second rule says that always uh, always declare that is the make the declaration process or initializing variables while making comparison and all. There are some certain rules that we need to follow. So let me tell you one by one about that. Whenever you are going to compare, this is a very popular thing by the way, because recently Salesforce started a concept called as lightning locker services. Okay, so let's talk about this, because this is also one of the important point that we need to discuss. So maybe like almost no one expected that this kind of change or this kind of rule will be started by Salesforce, and suddenly that made lots of confusion, chaos in the customer base of Salesforce when they started declaring that we are going to use and allow Lightning Locker service, and we have to follow some specific pattern compulsory in your code. If you're not going to follow that, then your code will not be available for Lightning. And then suddenly everyone started making changes in their code and all. So let's talk about that. What is actually the Lightning Locker service? Because the reason why we are going for JavaScript best practices is because we need to understand how actually we can take the benefit of this in Lightning Locker service. Okay, so before that I would like to take a gap and I would like to say something about Lightning Locker services. If you understand this, then only you will understand this, and if you know the problem in this Lightning Locker service, then only you will understand the problem you are going to face, your company is going to face when you are not going to follow this. So that is the reason Lightning Locker service you must know neatly. See, Lightning Locker service actually is a powerful security architecture for Lightning component. Okay, so let me mention here, it's a powerful security architecture. So it's architecture focusing on ensuring security for Salesforce. Okay, for Lightning components. So the only intention for this is to ensure that there should be no any security flaws, because in JavaScript there are lots of possibilities to have security issue if you are not handling it properly. Okay, so what actually Locker services will do? Locker services will improve the security by keeping the Lightning components different in their own space or in their own region. Okay, so let me mention this also. The main purpose or the main key scope of this is it keeps Lightning components separate and ensures they work in their own space, or I would say namespace. Okay, so this is the main intention behind this, that there should be no mixing or overwriting, or let's say cross controlling of multiple components. So Locker service also encourages us to use the best practice to that improves the like best practices that actually will be going to helpful for our code, and also which is also going to ensure that we are going to have a better security process in our code. Okay, so let me mention that also. This encourages to follow best practices to ensure the code and project will be better in terms of security and all. And that is the reason why we are understanding this JavaScript thing. This is the reason why we are understanding this. Okay, so these are all dependent on each other. And now you can realize how much importance is there of JavaScript knowledge in working on Lightning. Now let's talk about some kind of important things or some kind of necessary things that you need to know while learning the Lightning Locker service. So here, whenever you're using Lightning Locker service, then in this code, you need to ensure that your JavaScript uh, like is having the robust and supportive code, and it's going to have some kind of compulsory thing. So for example, uh, let me tell you. So for example, Locker service actually ensures that you are following the uh, JavaScript strict mode. Let me tell you what Locker services will do. And by the way, here, please note, this is not a code or not a functionality. It's not a program. It's not a code. In fact, this is this is a uh, this is nothing but implementation, or let's say this is nothing but a forceful implementation of Salesforce, or I would say best practice by a Salesforce Lightning project. So as this service is now auto enabled in all projects, we cannot we cannot cannot write any code which is not matching with the set rule of Locker services. So please note, many people don't understand that is it a code, is it a functionality, is it a object, is it a class? No, it's just a set of rules and regulations you need to follow. For example, when we say in the test class 75% code coverage is the rule. Now does that mean is it a code? Is it a button? Is it a link? No, it's just a rule. We must follow the 75% code coverage rule in our process. That's it. Exactly, the Locker service actually now, which started before a few months, was nothing but a warning ultimatum for all the Lightning projects in the industry that if you are not following the JavaScript standards and what standards we are telling you, if you are not going to follow that, then you have to face the results. The project will not work, and we will not allow you these things, that things in Lightning. And this way, all people completely modified their all code which were having problem. Now the phase is over. Now everyone is ready with a new journey because they know that if you don't follow this, your project is useless. So according to that, now everyone is going to do the same pattern implementation. And now this is the reason we need to understand why these standards best practices are necessary. Okay, so what Locker service will do now? Locker services will actually implement some standards. They will actually enable some kind of JavaScript standards, or let's say strict mode and etc. So these are nothing but some kind of standards which we need to follow. and they will enable JavaScript strict mode, which ensures that your code is very much secure and capable to handle the threats or the vulnerability of any kind of such security issue. Here, what we need to do, this strict mode makes our code robust and very much powerful, because it will not become loose in some situations, or it will not make any kind of problem if the things are not supportive, or in any environment our code will work. That's it, it will be robust. Now here what we need to do is, first of all, you must declare a variable with the var keyword. You must explicitly perform some kind of specific activity. Let's say for example, uh, let's say for example you're comparing some kind of value, then you need to compare it with for example three equal to signs, etc, etc, that we are going to see by the way. So such rules are there that you need to implemently use. Okay, now suppose your code actually is going to perform some kind of specific activity. So I'm going to tell you now what actually the things are there you need to know. Just let me tell you. There is one example of comparative format that I'm going to tell you, which is again going to be in the JavaScript process. Okay, so let's talk about now what locker service will do. So first of all, uh, this locker service is going to enforce the security and best practices for the Lightning component, which we are going to use in Lightning Experience or Salesforce app or Salesforce Lightning communities, etc., etc. Okay, and it's not going to affect, by the way, the environments like Salesforce Classic, Visual Force based communities, and any apps in Salesforce Classic, etc., etc. Okay, you need to know these kind of things very neatly, because mostly this is the question which customers will be asking you. And please note that where actually this Lightning Locker service will impact is mostly dependent on the project that you are going to use. Here, first of all, whenever you are going to use any kind of project of Lightning, try to understand that in this case you are not having any kind of such issues if you are going to use the Lightning experience and let's say for example Salesforce Classic experience and all. In this case, it's not going to impact, and locker service are not going to impact the classic things. So if you are using that, you don't need to worry about all these things. Okay, you can just simply avoid this. So I'm just mentioning here also some notes for your understanding that where the Lightning locker services will be impacting, so that depending on your customer for which you are going to work in the future, you have to be very ready for this. If your customer is using classic or communities and all these things, you don't need to worry about this. Okay, next. Now we can also disable locker service for a component. You can disable the locker service for a component by setting the API version or 39 or lower. If a component is set to API version 40 or automatically more than 40, then it's going to be going to impact the locker service. Now please note, by disabling the locker service, actually we are uh, not doing any kind of good thing or something like that. It's actually just a small adjustment for temporary purpose. So I'm just telling you this for your day-to-day work or some kind of understanding process. So if you want to disable locker service, keep Lightning component version 39.0 or lesser as from recent release and from API version 40.0. This locker service is auto enabled. So please note, this is just for your temporary understanding. It's not advisable. Only in some cases, let's say you have some kind of difficult situations and you have to manage the things. In only these cases, it is advised. Otherwise, from summer 17, it's actually going to be compulsory. Okay, this is also something important you need to remember. And by the way, whenever actually you are going to use any kind of locker service and all, there are multiple ways by which Salesforce is going to give you the information that we are going to we need to modify this or we need to modify that in terms of implementation. So all these updates, by the way, you can definitely get by Salesforce, and there is some other tools also available in the market by which you can just run this Lightning Locker service check, and it will give you all the information what all things you need to do. That's it. So this is what actually the overview of the Locker service is, and that is the reason we need to follow some best practices of JavaScript. Now let's talk about some kind of important information that you need to see while using the best practices of JavaScript. Here, first of all, whenever you are going to, let me tell you some best practices now, and let's come to this point now by giving two lines and the point which we have to continue best practices in JavaScript. Okay, so this one is done. Now here, so let's continue now to understand best practice of JavaScript. One very important practice of JavaScript which is going to helpful for us in Locker service especially is whenever you are actually going to use any kind of functionality in the Lightning Locker service, while making a comparison, understand that try to ensure that your comparison is going to be using the strict mode, that is nothing but the uh, comparison by triple equal to. Okay, so let me tell you one more best practice: use triple equal to for comparison. Use triple equal to for comparison. So the please note the double equal to comparison. Actually, when you use double equal to, let's say if age equal to 20, if I'm writing if condition, if age equal to 20, then double equal to comparison operator always converts uh, to the matching types before it's making comparison. But big means is try to ensure that the both the sides, left hand side, right hand side, should be matching. If their types are not same, then let's make them matching together and then only compare. But triple equal to will force the comparison of values and types. And what will happen then? In this case, you will not get the exact expected values if the matchings are not done. Okay, pay attention, it's important. Let me tell you here by one example. Okay, so for example, now let me mention here. So the double equal to comparison operator always converts to matching type present at left side before making any comparison. Okay, now for example, what I'm going to do, let's say for example, i'm going to compare I'm going to compare any kind of such value. For example, let's say I have a variable, and in that variable, suppose I am trying to compare, let's say 1 equal to 1. So for example, let me tell you here, let's say I have var age, okay, and then age equal to 20. Now common sense says it's a numerical variable, right? Internally it will adjust, that we know var is doing this kind of things. Now if I'm going to compare, if, pay attention, if age is equal to, I'm using 2 equal to, okay. Now I am comparing actually one integer variable with a text, correct? Actually, it should not be compared. It's wrong, right? But double equal to will say the condition matches. And this is the big drawback because it automatically converts internally. Condition is matching. And when we use when we use the triple equal to, then what will happen? Let me tell you. So the triple equal to operator will force, and it will force to comparison of both values, and they must also match the types. Okay, so pay attention. Triple equal operator ensures the not only the value but also the type is matching both at both ends. So if you are going to use this condition does not match, in this case it will throw error. It will say condition is not matching. Why? Because fine, it's 20, it's 20, but it's a text format, the type is different. It's a numerical format, type is different, and it will be saying wrong. So if you remember that, now it's not only making us safe, because in some kind of reason, some kind of cases, we may need to have a strict comparison activity, and that's advised by the way, because in many situations it will run fine, no problem, but we are not following the best practices, and that is the reason here we need to understand that we are going to follow this kind of triple equal to comparison. Okay, next, apart from that also yes, now here this is triple equal to. Apart from that also, there is one more important thing that we need to understand while implementing this functionality. javascript says javascript says that uh, we should not declare number, string or boolean objects. Always treat number, string, booleans as a primitive values and not an object. So declaring these types of objects are going to not only slow down the execution speed, but also they are actually going to make some kind of issues in the code. So please note here, let me just mention the third point. We should never declare number, string or boolean as an object. These are primitive types of variables, so we don't need any object creation. So don't need any object creation. If we do, that will slow down code performance performance. Okay, also not the best way to use in if we ensure best uh, also not the best way to use if you ensure the code should not have any side effect of such pattern. So in this all cases we should be avoiding this. Don't declare like this. Just ensure that you are writing something like for example let's say I'm declaring a variable, and with the name, let's say for example I'm entering some kind of value, let's say Shaker. So let me tell you what should be our best practices and what should be the wrong code, or what should be the wrong process for that. So this is declare this as a right one. Okay, directly declare, don't create the object, and this one is wrong approach. Okay, so remember this also. You can see this is right and this is wrong. Apart from that, whenever we are going to uh, ensure that whenever we are going to write any kind of functionality or proceedings into that, whenever you are going to create any kind of object, suppose you are creating any object. Okay, fine. And let's say if you remember last session we created an object. So in this case you never use the new keyword for object. Okay, so let me also mention here, never use new keyword for object creation. We should not use the new keyword for object creation, something like this. Okay, so because if you want to write any kind of object, or let's say for example any kind of object you created, just remember the previous session that what we remember, that the object name and give the equal to and the curly braces, then this is this is enough. Okay, so we don't need to write anything in terms of the object creation. This is enough. We don't need to write new keyword and all the way we write in apex class or in other cases. Okay, this is sufficient. uh, and apart from that, all the things are there which are necessary, that is following the best practices, coding standards and all these things. These are regular in all the programming languages. Okay, now after this, the next point which comes is to understand that in the JavaScript, we understood now how to ensure the best practices are implemented. Now we are going to see the common mistakes which we can just do in implementing the client side controller or in Lightning, what kind of issues or what kind of mistakes we can have. Okay, so the common mistakes in Lightning JavaScript code, that is going to be our next topic. Now understand here that whenever you are writing any kind of JavaScript code, client side controller connecting to helper or helper to any other activities. So please note, many times we use the using the, instead of uh, using the double equal to operator, or let's say triple equal to operator, unless you are having the interest in type comparison also, we sometimes use single equal to. And in this case it's actually I have seen in many cases that we have hundreds and hundreds of lines of code in the Lightning component, and then at that side some kind of issue comes, it's not working, this is not happening, this code is not, this function it is not working. Now we don't understand where the issue is happening, because the problem is there is no syntax error. It's a very classic situation. Pay attention, it's a very important point. This is a very classic situation which I saw hundreds of times happening with junior peoples and all, people and all with whom I work. They do this kind of mistakes. The mistake is they are writing a Lightning component, or they are working in a Lightning component, which we are all working in a team in the project, and they, let's say, perform some kind of small piece of part of that. Then while checking the output, there is no syntax error, there is no runtime error, there is no error, but as expected scenario is not happening. Now this is something very difficult situation. This is something very difficult situation here. Please note that not only you will be able to not only you will get any kind of debug log and all, because when you will get debug, the way we saw in the last week how to find debugs and all, when there is some error or where you want to print something in console.log, but here you even don't know where this mistake is coming from. It's a logical error. One of the very common mistake like this is using equal to instead of using equal to, or using equal to. This is a very very common mistake. This we need to avoid. Okay, now here what happens, suppose let's say by some reason if you want to do age equal to 20, you know both are, you can see now left hand side right hand side is both are numerical, right? So you can use equal to, And if you want to be safe, if you don't know what is this age and all, just want to be very safe, then let's say age equal to 20. Okay, now you are comparing if age equal to 20. If it is not 20, let's say the age value is 24, for example. So it's going to not work, the condition will fail. But if suppose you use something like this by mistake, then condition will be true, because it's not actually comparing, it's giving 20 value to age, and this process is just going to return true always, and you will feel that age is 24, and then whatever business logic is there that you are going to implement, and you will not realize why this error is coming, or in fact why unexpected results are coming. Okay, so please note, this is a very common mistake when you are going to use lightning. So using equal to in comparison, don't use this, it's going to confuse you, it's going to waste lots of time, and you're not able to understand that where the issue is coming. The code is not going to give error and also not going to work as expected. Both way you're going to be in trouble. Next, second thing is, uh, when you're going to compare, actually the both data type is not going to be uh, considered. So in this case you can make a mistake. Okay, so ensure this, we already discussed about this. If if we use, then both sides data type may not be compared, and this may lead to, in fact not may, I should say will not be compared, and this may lead to unexpected results. Okay, in your code, again some common mistakes which you guys do. Next is, always remember that whenever you are going for any kind of uh, operator usage, that plus, then such kind of operators also give you the benefit of actually the addition and as well as concatenation. Okay, so one operator can help you to ensure that you can get both the benefits. Okay, let me tell you what is the meaning of that. So please note that suppose for example I'm going to declare one variable. So third point, confusion with plus rate. Okay, so what it will happen, right? If you are going to use plus sign, for example, let's say you have variable some kind of num, let's say, and you are going to use let's say for example let's say some kind of sum and all you are going to make, let's say in that case. So it will not only work as a sum, but also it will give you the result as a concatenation. Okay, so for example, let me tell you, see for example this. So if I'm going to use the plus operator, then what will happen? If you are going to use in a numerical value, it will work like this. If you are going to work like a text value, it will work like this. So again, by using some kind of such unexpected values, you will not get the results properly. Okay, these kind of things are also very common in this process. Try to avoid this as well. Next, please note, here, whenever you are actually going to use any kind of functionality of let's say declaring any kind of let's say object definition. Okay, then try to ensure that you are not ending the um, like object with the comma. And for example, let's say if you remember last week, we understood something about the let's say um, let's say for example the car object, right? And we understood that we can declare an object like this, and in that object, for example, let's say we are declaring a car and having the value like mileage and all, etc., etc. So for example, using comma at the end of object. So last week we discussed, or last time we discussed about this car object, right? Now this is wrong. This will not work properly because many times people give the comma in unexpected way, and the issues happen. Okay, so this is one common mistake which we do. And now after this, it's time to go for the last but one point of the session, that is understanding how we can uh, understand some very popular reserved keywords, or the keywords which are useful in Java. I'm going to provide, by the way, one chart for you to ensure that you will be getting the idea of this reserved keyword. It's very important to understand that you are good with the knowledge of JavaScript, but also you should be knowing with some kind of very regularly used or very common keywords. So that actually, by the way, I'm going to give you in the screenshot format. So I'm going to just store this kind of list. I'm going to just mail you, by the way, this list keywords in Java, and just keep in your mind that these are going to make you powerful the way the tags in the Visual Force page made you powerful, right? More tags you know, more benefit is there, right? Similarly, more keywords or information you have about JavaScript, more will be the help for you when you are going to use actually these kind of things in the Lightning component. So let me show you now what actually I'm going to mail you, or I'm going to send you this. So these are some keywords that you need to understand possible in JavaScript. No need to go for memorizing all these keywords, because no one does that. You just understand that what are the possible keywords JavaScript supports. Lots of keywords are there, and all this will help you. Some popular are like if, some popular are for, some popular keywords are using the static or void or try, or let's say you want to go for some kind of else, right? These are some popular, but you just keep this in your mind. I'm going to share this document also with you in your notes also. I'm going to add this, so understand this concept as well, useful for your understanding or day-to-day work. And finally, we are going to also understand the JSON using JavaScript in using JSON in the Lightning. So if you are going to use any kind of such JSON functionality in Lightning, then it will help you. Let me just mention here the heading: JSON in Lightning, JS controller, or maybe helper you can also use. Okay. Now please note JSON, that I hope you heard about this word. It's called as JavaScript object notation, a very popular technique for exchanging data between multiple platforms. So it's useful for storing and transporting data. It's actually JavaScript object notation. Okay, used for storing data, used for transferring data. Very popular, by the way. Okay. Now in this case, in this case, please note. In this case, please note, whenever you are using any kind of JSON in Salesforce Lightning, then you need to understand that when we use this is useful for when data is to be sent from server to web pages and all. So in this case, this in Salesforce we can use this for sending data from server side controller, that is Apex class, to client side controller, that is the JavaScript functionality, that is nothing but the JavaScript code that we write. So please note, it's mostly useful for server side to client side transformation. And now you can use this JavaScript object notation anywhere. It's very straightforward, and it's comparatively very easy to use, easy to understand. So let me now tell you some about some kind of example, and let me also tell you some kind of properties also, some properties of JavaScript. So please note that JavaScript actually is lightweight, means it's like very easy to exchange the data. It doesn't take much resources. uh, and second is, it's going to be you can use in any language. Okay, you can use in Salesforce, and you can use in any Java, .NET, no problem. Okay, you can just use this kind of things in any language. So property are nothing but the benefits that we guys can get by using the JSON. Okay, now suppose you are going to use a JSON. Let me tell you one JSON example. Suppose we are going to write a JSON format, and that is nothing but for let's say, for example, again let's continue with the same model of cars. Okay, we are declaring a JSON value. Okay, now let's say in the JSON we have, for example, information about three car. For example, let's say Audi, and let's say, for example, Toyota, and for example, one car, let's say Mercedes Benz, and etc. And let's say we have some kind of properties like color for that, and let's say we are going with this kind of value. So all these things we want to set, for example, in some kind of JSON format. So what we'll do is we'll just simply declare this declaring JSON. So what we'll do actually, we'll simply have this format. Okay, we'll just simply use this format bracket and combination of this. That's it. We just do the combinations of this, and inside that we put all the values. For example, let me show you one example. This. Okay, put the curly braces here. Okay, now see here, if I just take it in one line, you can see here it's something like this. It looks same like an array. It looks same like an array. Okay, same like an array. Okay, let me just take in one line, and you can see here something like this. Okay, so ultimately you are just doing nothing but you are like kind of declaring a value. And here let me tell you step by step how we do. Step 1, we declare first of all the external two brackets. Then step 2, we need to give some kind of name for this external bracket. So we are giving the name. Let's say we are saying cars information. Okay, or let's say cars list, anything, any name you can give. Okay, this name is given, that's it. And inside that, just declare something like this and give the value. That's it. You are just going to tell, okay, I'm going to save cars information in this. Then in the step 3, now just add the bracket in the square, add the information in the square bracket, and let me just copy this. And now just try to expand some kind of value inside this. Here also you just need to declare now the objects. Okay, it's very simple. Now you already know how to declare object. So one is, let's say, model, and let's say Audi. This is one value, this is one, and let's say color, and red. Okay, so just give double quotation for all the things because it's a syntax. So you can see now I just declared one object. So please note the bracket of JSON, then inside that I'm declaring one value set, and inside that I told, okay, this is one object. Like this I can keep on adding more and more object, keep adding more such objects. That's it, done. This is what JSON is. Okay, so I just took in a one line, single line. Now let me tell you generally how we use like this. We use in a separate line for easy understanding, and at the end we go for this format. Okay, so this is what actually JSON format is. It's closing here, and this is closing here, and this is closing here. Okay, remember this is how actually we use JSON. Okay, now apart from this actually JSON format is very much similar to the declaring of JavaScript object. and because of that only JavaScript program can easily use JSON and also can process JSON. Okay, so let me mention this also. So as JSON is similar to JS object declaration, it's very uh, easy to use JSON in Lightning. Okay, so that is the reason. Please note, it becomes easy for using JSON in the Lightning code, and as it's totally focusing on the job object use or notation of that, it becomes very much easy for that. Okay, so that's it. We added the name, value, and that's it. The full data is ready. Okay, now that's all with the today's session. Now in the next session, we are going to understand some essential advanced things about a next topic, and ensuring our JavaScript knowledge is very much concrete and sound and with best practices is now done. We'll go with some interesting topic in the next session. Let's meet tomorrow. Have a great time, Lithium. See ya.